Good morning. Welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Deuteronomy chapter 31. And Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also, the Lord hath said unto me, Thou shalt not go over this Jordan. The Lord thy God, he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee, and thou shalt possess them. And Joshua, he shall go over before thee, as the Lord hath said. And the Lord shall do unto him as he did to Sihon and to Og, kings of the Amorites, and unto the land of them whom he destroyed. And the Lord shall give them up before your face, that ye may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doeth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And Moses called unto Joshua, and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of a good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he it is that doeth go before thee. He will be with thee, he will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. And Moses wrote this law, and delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Levi, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, At the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the feast of tabernacles, when all Israel is come to appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear, and that they may learn and fear the Lord your God, and observe to do all the words of this law. And that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as ye live in the land whither ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thy days approach that thou must die. Call Joshua, and present yourselves in the tabernacle of the congregation, that I may give him a charge. And Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of the congregation. And the Lord appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud, and the pillar of the cloud stood over the door of the tabernacle. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whither they go to be among them, and will forsake me, and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, Are not these evils come upon us, because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evils which they shall have wrought, in that they are turned unto other gods. Now therefore, write ye this song for you, and teach it the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. For when I shall have brought them into the land which I swear unto their fathers, that floweth with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves, and waxen fat, then they will turn unto other gods, and serve them, and provoke me, and break my covenant. And it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination which they go about, even now, before I have brought them into the land which I swear. Moses therefore wrote this song the same day, and taught it the children of Israel. And he gave Joshua the son of Nun a charge, and said, Be strong and of a good courage, for thou shalt bring the children of Israel into the land which I swear unto them, and I will be with thee. And it came to pass, when Moses had made an end of writing the words of this law in a book until they were finished, that Moses commanded the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, saying, Take this book of the law, and put it in the side of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there for a witness against thee. For I know thy rebellion and thy stiff neck. Behold, while I am yet alive with you this day, ye have been rebellious against the Lord, and how much more after my death? Gather unto me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their ears, and call heaven and earth to record against them. For I know that after my death ye will utterly corrupt yourselves, and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because ye will do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands. And Moses spake in the ears of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. Summarizing Deuteronomy chapter 31. Moses is continuing his extended farewell address to the second generation of Israel out of Egypt. The intention for this is to provide a foundation so that Israel can build a godly kingdom based on God's commands. Their kingdom will be in Canaan, aka the Promised Land. We know that the Promised Land is Canaan because of what we see documented in Numbers chapter 32, Numbers chapter 33, and Numbers chapter 34. So, Numbers chapter 32, we see this in verses 30 through 32. Canaan. In Numbers chapter 33, we see that in verse 51. And then in Numbers chapter 34, it's in verse 2. And it's really direct here. This is the land that shall fall to you for an inheritance, the land of Canaan. So before I go into summarizing 31, I just want to document the connection to when Canaan was first mentioned in Genesis to now, so we can understand why God is allowing Israel to overtake this nation, because Canaan has made their land sick with their sexual perversion, and we can notice a pattern of Canaan being associated with sexual immorality from the beginning. The beginning is Genesis chapter 9, verses 20 through 27. In this chapter, Noah is the one who survived the flood. He has a grandson named Caanan, but his sons are Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah gets drunk one night in his tent and is naked. His son Ham finds him, laughs at him, and tells his brothers as if it's a joke. His brothers cover him. When Noah wakes up, he begins lighting into Canaan, cursing Canaan, and it says in verse 24, he knew what his youngest son had done to him. From the way the story is written, there's not enough detail for us to understand why, instead of cursing Ham, he begins to curse Canaan. I mentioned when I did the video on Genesis chapter 9, there's a theory online that Canaan did something sexually inappropriate with Noah, which is why Noah wakes up and curses him. He must have already demonstrated some tendencies to be that way. And the biggest thing about that, if that's what happened, first of all, we keep seeing sexual immorality being linked to Canaan. But in this instance, first of all, he violated Noah's consent, which is a huge deal. Secondly, this was incest. And later on, we understand homosexuality, but homosexuality wasn't even mentioned again until Leviticus. So the most important thing to note here must have been the violation of boundaries and incest. Genesis chapter 10, verse 19. We see that the Canaanite territory includes Sodom and Gomorrah. The reason why this is important is because we're starting to see a pattern of Canaan being associated with sexual immorality. Although it hasn't happened yet, I just want to demonstrate Canaan also includes Sodom and Gomorrah. When we look at Genesis chapter 16, verse 3, Abraham and Sarah have lived in Canaan for 10 years now. Sarah tells Moses that she wants him to take her maid, Hagar, and impregnate her. So this is done in the land of Canaan. Sarah lives to regret it, and she begins to treat or have contention with Hagar. Maybe she treats her some kind of way, but this begins a contentious relationship with this other woman because of something Sarah did. When we get to 17 verse 8, there's something interesting here. God promises Canaan to Abraham. The reason why this is important is because this fulfills the curse or the prophecy that Noah said about Canaan in Genesis chapter 9. Look at verse 26. He says, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Caanan be his servant." So when we look again at Genesis chapter 10, which is documenting the lineages of the bloodline after Noah, when we look at Shem's lineage, 26, I think, Shem. I apologize. Uh, so I had the wrong verse. Genesis chapter 11, verse 10. This is how we're proving that Abraham is the descendant of Shem. Genesis chapter 11, verse 10, we have Shem. When we look further down his lineage, he birthed a man called Nahor, who birthed Terah, who birthed Abraham in verse 27. So seeing Shem father Abraham, and then when we look at Genesis chapter 17, verse 8, getting that land goes along with what we saw in Genesis 9. So I hope that's clear. He says, "Let Caanan be his servant." Abraham is Shem's descendant, and he's being given the land of Canaan from God. The next mention, Genesis chapter 18. In this verse, or in this chapter, Abraham is interceding on the behalf of Sodom and Gomorrah because, God reveals to him that he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. So then Abraham intercedes on his behalf. If there are 50 righteous, 40, 30, 20, 10, and God says, well, hey, if you can find any of these amounts, even 10, I won't destroy, or if there are 10 that can be found, I won't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, which there aren't. There's only 3 people. Genesis chapter 19. This is the infamous story about Sodom and Gomorrah. And so this is why, verse 13, this is why the angels say they're going to destroy the city, because the outcry against this people has become great before the Lord. Homosexuality specifically was not mentioned as an abomination until the book of Leviticus. So I just want to put that in there, because if that were the reason, if it was that important, if this was the reason why this city was destroyed, then it would have been mentioned here and a law probably would have been made sooner. So because that didn't happen, that's one reason why I don't believe that alone was the problem. It has to be because these people were not respecting boundaries that other people have about their own bodies, which is what was happening here in this story. So in Genesis chapter 19, there were 2 men who came to save Lot because, again, the outcry against his people became great before the Lord. So God was going to destroy this city. But because of Lot's connection to Abraham, God was going to save Lot. So when you read the story, the angels have to drag him out because he's lingering. He doesn't want to leave. And when these 2 angels come to visit, men of the city, people of the city, surround Lot's home wanting to have sex with these 2 men. And Lot offers his virgin daughters who are engaged, and the guys they're engaged to are there, which is weird, but the crowd doesn't want them. The crowd wants the 2 men, and they start trying to break the door down. So the angels had to smite the crowd with blindness so that they could escape. It was really that serious. So again, a lack of boundaries seems to be the problem more than the sexual orientation, because at least if it was consensual, it wouldn't be violent like this. But again, we look at verse 36 through 39. Only 3 people were able to be saved, which were Lot and his 2 daughters. And back to back, both daughters got him drunk and slept with him and produced brother cousins. Doesn't say that Lot was angry the same way that Noah was angry with Caanan. We get to Genesis chapter 24. Abraham tells his unnamed servant to find his son Isaac a wife, but he says specifically, do not find him a wife from the women of Canaan. Do not give him a Canaanite wife specifically. We see in Genesis chapter 27, Isaac marries Rebekah, and Rebekah says at the end, the Hittite women, in the King James, it does say the daughters of Heath. I did read the King James for this one. She says, the daughters of Heath are making my life miserable. If Jacob marries one of these women, my life will be not worth living. Again, Genesis chapter 10, verse 15. Canaan fathered Heath. So the daughters of Heath are Canaanite women. Again, when we look at Genesis chapter 36, Esau married three Hittite or 3 Canaanite women, Ada, Aholibamah, and Beshemath. So when Rebecca said, man, if my other son marries one of these women, my life is not going to be worth living. So that was how these other characters keep feeling about these people from Canaan. We get to Genesis chapter 28, verse 6. Isaac specifically told Jacob, do not take a wife of the Canaanite women. Genesis 34. Dinah, Jacob's daughter, went to Shalem. It was okay. The Hivite. This is a Canaanite territory as well. I do not have the notes for this because I did not write it, but this is also a Canaanite territory. But again, that pattern of violating someone's personal boundaries in the land of Canaan. So Jacob's daughter left out and was sexually assaulted by the prince of this land, who was a Canaanite. After this, Israel is in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. They're in the wilderness. So then we get to Leviticus 18 and 19. I think it's 18, 19, and 20, but definitely 18 and 19. There's a long list of sexual things that Moses is telling Israel not to engage in because they're an abomination. And God explains that these sex acts make the land sick, became unclean from these sexual acts. So Numbers 32, 33, and 34 details Canaan as the promised land that God gave to Abraham, and Genesis chapter 16, verse 8. This is after Noah cursed Canaan and said that his offspring would serve Shem in Genesis chapter 9, verse 26. With this understanding, Moses is taking the entire book of Deuteronomy to warn Israel against disobeying God. He's addressing the second generation of Israel out of Egypt, giving them information to help them establish their godly kingdom in this historically corrupt land of Canaan. Canaan was so defiled that God commands Israel to not eat the crops in Canaan until their fifth year. And we'll see this in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 23 to 25. Can't even eat it because of all the sin that has been committed on the land. So Canaan has no respect for God, no respect for sex. They worship idols and images, and they also don't have any dietary restrictions. So all of these together will sicken the land and cause destruction. I thought that sounded pretty familiar. So Deuteronomy chapter 31, verses 1 through 6, Moses tells Israel, hey, I'm 120 years old. I told you that I can't go with you into the new land. God is going to destroy the nation so that you can gain control. Joshua will lead you. God will do to the Canaanites what he did to Sihon and Og. That's referencing Numbers chapter 21. Moses tells them, do not fear. God will not forsake you. Verses 7 through 8. Moses called Joshua in front of Israel to be strong and courageous. You will help Israel inherit the land promised to them. God will be with you. He will not forsake you. Verses 9 through 13. Moses wrote the law to give to the priests. He tells him, read it to Israel. Gather everyone, men, women, and children, at the end of 7 years, in the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Booths. Read the law so everyone, including the children that have not known it, may fear and learn to respect God, as long as you live in the land he has given you. Verses 14 through 15, God tells Moses, you are about to die. Tell Joshua to come into the tent of meeting so that I can commission him. The Lord appeared in the tent in a pillar of a cloud that stood over the tabernacle door. Verses 16 through 17, God tells Moses, hey, you're going to die, and Israel will become disloyal and forsake me. They will worship other gods, and they will break my covenant. My anger will be kindled, so I'll forsake them. I will hide my face. Destruction will follow them, and they will wonder if I am among them. Verses 18 through 21, I'll hide my face from them. They will worship other gods. Write this song and teach it to Israel. And once they enjoy the blessings, they're going to turn against me. This song will serve as a witness, as a testimony or evidence against them, because their offspring are also going to know this song. I know Israel's inclinations even after I bless them. Verse 22, Moses writes the song. Verse 23, God commissioned or officially declared or blessed Joshua, telling him to be courageous, telling him that you, Joshua, will bring the people into the land that I swore to them. I'll be with you. Verses 24 through 29. Moses wrote all of the law in a book. And verses 25 through 26, he tells the Levites to put the book, he references this book, the book of the law, and he tells him to put this book of the law by the ark of the covenant of God. Moses says that he knows how rebellious Israel has been while he's alive, and he asks, rhetorically, how bad will they be once he's gone? So he calls the Levites over, and then he tells them all this. Hey, I know how rebellious you've been when I'm alive. How bad will you be once I'm gone? Okay, Levites, now gather everyone so I can speak to them. I know evil will befall you because you won't listen. And then, verse 30, he begins writing the song, but we're not going to see the song until next chapter. So that is all that I have for Deuteronomy chapter 31. I really hope that that documentation of Canaan was clear. I'm happy to answer any questions or to encourage a discussion. I do understand that, well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because we are going to have a wonderful day. Okay. I love you. Thank you so much for the recent views, for the recent follows. I am just very thankful, and I'm very blessed to be able to have the ability to read and have this revealed to me. I'm very grateful for that. I love you. Have a good day.